ASMR video. I thought that tonight I might read you some poetry. I have here a collection of books by some poets that I like. I'll read one or two poems from each poet, and I hope you'll enjoy it. There should be some good paper sounds as well. So get comfortable and we'll get started. The first poet I'll be reading to you is John Burnside. John Burnside is a Scottish poet, and this is a collection of selected poems. The biography for John Burnside reads as such. John Burnside has published 9 individual collections of poetry, including The Asylum Dance, which won the 2000 Whitbread Poetry Award and was shortlisted for both the Forward and the T.S. Eliot Prize, and most recently, The Good Neighbour, which was shortlisted for the Forward Prize. He has also written 5 works of fiction and a memoir, A Life About My Father. He lives in Fife with his wife and 2 sons. The poem that I would like to read is this one. You might not be able to read anything, but it's called The Solitary in Autumn, and it describes a garden where the speaker is building a fire. The Solitary in Autumn. I am standing out in the yard at the end of October, building a fire of drifted leaves and twigs, letters for kindling, apples amongst the flames, the last of summer dropping through the embers. There is that perfume in the shade that is almost viburnum, traces of snow and water in the light, a blankness along the canal that waits to be filled. And given the silence, given the promise of frost, I might have welcomed this as something else. The taste of windfalls moving on the stream, a faint god's partial emergence through willow and alder. The riverbank darkens and fades. The garden recovers its creatures, slow worms and frogs, and blackbirds sifting the dead in the still of the damsons. Across the river, evening bleeds the trees. My neighbor's garden blurs to smoke and rain. Sometimes I think that someone else is there, standing in his own yard, raking leaves, or bending to a clutch of twigs and straw to breathe a little life into the fire. So, the next poet I'd like to read is Seamus Heaney. Seamus Heaney is an Irish poet, or was an Irish poet. He is perhaps Ireland's most famous poet, and he won many awards in his life. This is a newer selection of his poetry, and it doesn't include his most famous works. But there is a poem I really enjoy here, and it's called At the Wellhead. It talks about his neighbour who is blind. At the wellhead. Your songs, when you sing them with your two eyes closed, as you always do, are like a local road we've known every turn of in the past. That midge-veiled, high-hedged side road where you stood, looking and listening until a car would come and go, and leave you lonelier than you had been to begin with. So sing on, dear shut-eyed one, dear far-voiced veteran. Sing yourself to where the singing comes from, ardent and cut off like our blind neighbour who played the piano all day in her bedroom. Her notes came out to us like hoisted water, ravelling off a bucket at the wellhead, where next thing we'd be listening, hushed and awkward. That blind from birth, sweet-voiced, withdrawn musician was like a silver vein in heavy clay, night water glittering in the light of day, but also just our neighbour, Rosie Keenan. She touched our cheeks. She let us touch her braille in books like books' wallpaper patterns came in. Her hands were active, and her eyes were full of open darkness and a watery shine. She knew us by our voices. She'd say she saw whoever or whatever. Being with her was intimate and helpful, like a cure you didn't notice happening. When I read a poem with Keenan's well in it, she said, I can see the sky at the bottom of it now. There's one other poem here that I'd like to read. I believe it was one of the last poems that Heaney wrote before he passed away. And if I'm not mistaken, it is for his granddaughter. It's called In Time, and it's 4 chiffres. energy, balance, outbreak. Listening to Bach, I saw you years from now, more years than I'll be allowed. Your toddler wobble's gone, a sure and grown woman. Your bare foot on the floor keeps me in step. The power I first felt come up through our cement floor long ago pulps your soul and heal, and earths you here for real. An oratorio would be just the thing for you. Energy, balance, outbreak, at play for their own sake. But for now, we foot it lightly, in time, and silently. And that is dated the 18th of August, 2003, or 2013, excuse me. The next poet I'll read is Czeslaw Milosz. Czeslaw Milosz. Czeslaw Milosz. Czeslaw Milosz is, or was, a Polish poet. And one of my favorite things about him is his name. It's a lot of fun to say. Czeslaw Milosz. This book was given to me by a friend a few years ago, and I believe he got it secondhand. It was published in 1988, and someone has inscribed it the 28th of September 1998, which is, I assume, when it was first bought. It is a selection of Milosz's poems from 1931 to 1987. And this copy is lightly worn. There are some creases and small tears, but I think it gives the book great character. It is a Penguin edition, and it's always interesting to see how the book design changes. They no longer design their covers in this way. The poem I'd like to read is a short one. It's called Veni Creator, which I believe means come creator. And Milosz is asking God for a sign, but he's also berating himself for wanting a sign from God. This was written in 1961. Come, Holy Spirit, bending or not bending the grasses, appearing or not above our heads in a tongue of flame, at hay harvest, or when they plough in the orchards, or when snow covers crippled firs in the Sierra Nevada. I am only a man. I need visible signs. I tire easily, building the stairway of obstruction. Many a time I asked, you know it well, that the statue in church lift its hand only once, just once, for me. But I understand that signs must be human. Therefore, call one man anywhere on earth, not me. After all, I have some decency. And allow me, when I look at him, to marvel at you. The second last poet I'll read is Louise Gluck. Louise Gluck was an American poet and essayist. She died fairly recently. She also won the Nobel Prize recently. This book was published before she passed away. And it is a collection of most of her work. I hadn't heard of her before I purchased this book, but I really liked the cover. And then, when I read it, I discovered that I really enjoyed her poetry. So, there's just one poem that I'd like to read. And it is, perhaps, her most famous poem. It's called The Wild Iris. The Wild Iris. At the end of my suffering, there was a door. Hear me out. That That which you call death, I remember. Overhead noises, branches of the pine shifting, then nothing. The weak sun flickered over the dry surface. It is terrible to survive as consciousness buried in the dark earth. Then it was over. That which you fear, being a soul and unable to speak, ending abruptly, the stiff earth bending a little. And what I took to be birds darting in low shrubs. You who do not remember passage from the other world, I tell you, I could speak again. Whatever returns from oblivion returns to find a voice. From the center of my life came a great fountain, deep blue shadows on azure seawater. Now, the last two poems I'll read are by John Keats. Keats is considered by some to be the greatest English poet that ever was. Some people might say it's Shakespeare. I don't have an opinion either way, but John Keats is one of my favorite poets, and perhaps the poet who made me want to read poetry in the first place. This is a small selection of his poems. Poems of John Keats, selected and introduced by Claire de Malin. It's a pretty little book. It's got some gold inlays. The poems I'll read are two of his most famous sonnets, and the second one is my favorite poem ever. Neither one of these has a title, and they are known simply by their first lines. This is the first one. When I have fears that I may cease to be, before my pen has cleaned my teeming brain, before high-piled books in charactery hold like rich garners the full ripened grain, when I behold upon this night's starred face huge cloudy symbols of a high romance, and think that I may never live to trace their shadows with the magic hand of chance. And when I feel, fair creature of an hour, that I shall never look upon thee more, never have relish in the fairy power of unreflecting love, then on the shore of the wide world I stand alone and think, till love and fame to nothingness do sink. The second one is sometimes titled Bright Star, but it has no real title, but it goes like this. Bright star, would I were steadfast as thou art, not in lone splendour hung aloft the night and watching, with eternal lids apart, like nature's patient, sleepless eremite, the moving waters at their priest-like task of pure ablution round earth's human shores, or gazing on the new soft fallen mask of snow upon the mountains and the moors. No, yet still steadfast, still unchangeable, pillowed upon my fair love's ripening breast, to feel forever its soft fall and swell, awake forever in a sweet unrest, still to hear her tender taken breath, and so live ever, or else swoon to death. That was written in February 1819, over 200 years ago. Now, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, let me know, and I'll make more videos like it in the future. For now, take good care of yourself, rest well, and I will see you in the next video.